Dedicated to Eastern and Southern Kentucky, this is WYMT Mountain News This Morning.
Good morning and happy Halloween. I'm Madison Carmouche. We are inching up to that 6 o'clock mark this Thursday morning. Let's check in with meteorologist Drake Foley for a look at your spooky day forecast. Drake, what can those ghouls and goblins expect for trick-or-treating?
Well, you definitely, if you head out, are probably going to be pretty warm. We were talking about possibly needing to bring a poncho. It looks like we should avoid the rain, at least during trick-or-treating hours. Now, that could change if this front does speed up a little bit. Now, looking at our first alert weather app forecast, this is what it tells us. We are right now 61 degrees, 77% humidity. Feels like 61, so not too bad out there. All right, if you're taking the kiddos to school today or taking them to the bus stop forecast, we're seeing 61 right now, 64 as the kids head to school, but by the time they're at lunch, 75, and then heading home, 79. Definitely going to be warm on the bus heading home. All right, if you need to go and mow, the best time to do it, it's going to be today, because tomorrow we're going to have all that wet ground from the overnight, and it's going to be a little bit cold and wet on the ground, so some you don't want to mow on Friday, but by this weekend it looks to be a little bit nicer, so you can definitely get out and cut that grass. Madison?
All right, Drake, thank you. As Election Day inches closer, some folks are preparing for early voting, which has already started this morning in some parts of Kentucky. Ann Sizemar is a professor and political scientist at Eastern Kentucky University. She has some tips for what folks should do before they head to the polls, saying a lot of what will be on the ballot will not be a partisan election, like mayors, amendments, and wet dry votes.
Those are all very impactful on people's day-to-day lives in a way that even the presidential election or the elections for Washington, D.C. are not. And so it's worth spending a little bit of time before going to vote to look at a sample ballot, find out who and what's going to be on your ballot before you go to the polls. And that way you can do the research beforehand before you get there to know who are these people, because there's not going to be that sort of partisan shortcut.
Sizemar says straight ticket voting will not fill out the nonpartisan decisions and our state Senate write-in campaign in the 29th district. Kentucky Secretary of State is urging folks to hit the polls for early voting or face long lines next week. Michael Adams reports a 58% increase in absentee ballot requests and a 164% gain in in-person excused in-person absentee voting since the last federal election in 2022. While these numbers indicate high turnout, officials encourage voters to cast their ballots early to help avoid long lines on Election Day.
The good news is we have more locations to vote than we had 4 years ago. The bad news is we have fewer days. We had 3 weeks to vote in 2020. We have 4 days to vote now. That's enough, but if people procrastinate until the last day, it's going to be a long day.
Again, early voting starts today. To find polling locations and a sample ballot, you can go to vote.ky.gov. Secretary of State Michael Adams also says he will cast his ballot for this year's general election today. In a release from his office, it says he will vote at 10 o'clock this morning in Louisville. We also understand Governor Andy Beshear and First Lady Brittany Beshear will vote today in Frankfort. County clerks across the Commonwealth are preparing for a high voter turnout. Election security is a priority with members of both political parties involved in ballot handling. Law enforcement say they will increase security at polling sites.
We're going ahead and upping our security just in case. We do expect a high turnout with it being that. So we have plenty of deputies on staff at each of the schools and polling sites, courthouses. We will be prepared for anything that's necessary.
After November 5th, voting machines will undergo a 30-day quarantine to enable a thorough review of votes if necessary. The Battleground Blitz continues for both top presidential candidates this Halloween, with Election Day now just 5 days away. CBS News' Jared Hill reports from Detroit with a push to get Union voters to the polls.
In a branded garbage truck, Former President Donald Trump grabbed onto a gaffe by President Biden.
I can tell you who the real garbage is.
Continuing the controversy over Biden's comment while speaking to Latino voters.
The only garbage I see floating out there is his supporters. His demonization of Latinos is unconscionable, and it's un-American.
The president later clarified he was referring to the disparaging joke at a Trump rally about Puerto Rico.
I can assure you we're not garbage.
At Trump's Green Bay rally, former Packers quarterback Brett Favre also played up the comments. Further south in Madison, Vice President Kamala Harris brought her own star power with performances from Mumford & Sons and Gracie Abrams.
Just like Wisconsin's state motto tells us, we will move forward.
It was her third stop of the day after stumping through North Carolina, which Trump also hit, and Pennsylvania. Yesterday, a judge there extended the deadline for mail-in voting in Bucks County after former President Trump filed a lawsuit over long lines and reports of voters being turned away. Voters there now have until close of business tomorrow to apply for and receive a mail-in ballot. The Midwest is home to hundreds of thousands of union workers, which could be key in tight races in swing states like Wisconsin and here in Michigan. Angel Sharp has been knocking on doors in Detroit for months.
I might have knocked over at least 500.
Encouraging fellow members of the Service Employees International Union to get out and vote.
What are you hearing from people about what they're hearing about the candidates?
I tell them it's best to always look it up for yourself.
Jared Hill, CBS News, Detroit, Michigan.
Both Harris and Trump will return to Michigan in a lead up to the election in a final push to win the toss-up state. A higher ground community near Whitesburg is being developed, and Homes Inc., the organization doing the work, invited the community for a groundbreaking yesterday. Representatives say they wanted to host the groundbreaking while homes were still in all phases of development, showcasing everything from the foundations to the finishing touches. Fay CEO Jim King says the development is almost like a pilot program for what officials hope will be many more projects, not only building homes, but creating communities.
It signals a lot of hope. Like the plans we laid, the vision the governor had, it all is actually happening. And that just creates momentum.
4 of the 8 homes coming to the site are already under construction, with plans for more developments and phases to come.
Usually we wouldn't be really happy if we were going to see showers on Halloween. However, this October has been incredibly dry. Actually, could be the driest on record. That's what we're looking at. 1987, we only got just over a ½ inch of rain, and we're nowhere near that for October 2024. It's going to take a lot of rain tonight to get us over that, but we are hoping we do at least get that rain. If you're going to take your dog out this morning, it's going to be a good time to do it. 63 at 7 a.m., 65 at 9 a.m. And then as we head throughout the rest of the day, it's going to get a little warm, but not too bad for those paws. And thanks, Eric, for that photo of Branson. All right, looking at your trick-or-treat forecast for tonight, sitting at 77 for 5 p.m., 74 at 7 p.m., 69 at 9 p.m., and then we have that cold front and rain late. Madison?
Thanks, Drake, and thanks for joining us on Mountain News this morning. More news is on the way. Just ahead, folks willing to buy a stigmatized property have their work cut out for them before and after buying the house.
If we